As of 2003, in the United States alone, there are more than 45,000 sets of unidentified remains still waiting to be named something other than John or Jane Doe. The manners in which these unnamed people met their untimely ends remain a mystery. It could have been natural, it could have been accidental, maybe it was suicide, sometimes it is foul play. Of these 45,000 in the US, 1,000 are children. Makes me wonder how small this number is on a global scale. One of the purposes of a missing persons report is to help link John and Jane Doe with their true identities, to help solve the case once and for all, to bring closure to the families left behind, and, if necessary, a murderer to justice. But sometimes there is a glitch in the system. When the body of a child surfaces, a child that has not been reported as missing. These cases are among some of the more frustrating ones. Immediately, neglect and child abuse is highly suspected. These cases are presented with two built-in potential suspects, but until this child has a name, the case goes cold. On the 1st of September 1994, a little north of Toronto, Canada, police on patrol in an industrial area spotted something out of place: a closed green suitcase on fire. Even to a layman, I would think this would still be mildly curious. After all, whoever set this suitcase on fire, what were they trying to destroy? To an officer, this is obviously worth a closer inspection, and inspect this officer certainly did. And what would be found would be the beginning of a brutal case, one of absolute cruelty that would take nearly 2 decades to solve. The charred remains of a young girl lying in the fetal position, sandwiched between 2 burning tires. She was burned beyond recognition. Her fingerprints, toe prints, and anything that could have been used to easily identify her had already been lost to the flames. Amongst the char, the only thing investigators were certain of was the victim at once had black, curly hair. An autopsy later discovered the victim was a young girl between the ages of 11 to 17 years old. Upon the time of death, she had 21 broken bones. Her legs were broken. Her pelvis was broken. Ankles, vertebrae. Her body was broken in a way consistent with a car collision or a fall from a great height. What made her broken bones more suspicious was that all these broken bones were in various stages of healing, meaning they had been broken over the course of approximately 6 months. This would have left the young Jane Doe in a considerable amount of pain. She would have been unable to walk or breathe without immense discomfort. The autopsy revealed that at the time of death, this young girl weighed about 50 pounds, what's normal for an 8-year-old. Even if she was 11 years old, she would still be considered emaciated. She was called the girl in the burning suitcase, and that was it. Despite the best efforts of the investigators appealing to the public for more information, there were no leads. No one ever reported her missing because she was never missed for 18 years. The year is now 2011. The month is November. A middle-aged woman is speaking with her pastor when she confesses something that she suddenly needs to get off her chest. She knows who the girl in the burning suitcase is, and what's more, she knows who killed her. This confession would reopen the case and tell the twisted tale of child slavery, abuse beyond comprehension, deceit, and callousness to a degree Toronto rarely sees. The story of Melanie Biddersingh, the girl in the burning suitcase. One warm day in 1977 in Kingston, Jamaica, Opal Austin and Everton Biddersingh welcomed a new baby girl, Melonie. After having another child, Dwayne, the couple would eventually split, with Everton moving to Toronto, Canada. Melonie had a normal childhood, living with her mother in her native land, though the opportunities are limited and the general well-being is a regular threat for some living in Jamaica. And because of this, in 1990, when Melonie was 13, Everton extended a very generous offer to Opal. He suggested she sent Melonie to Toronto along with her younger brother Dwayne to live with him and his new wife, Elaine. Heartbroken, but doing what she thought was best for her children, Opal agreed. Everton had multiple children at this point with multiple women, one of whom was the mother of Cleon Biddersingh. He extended the same offer to her, and for the same reasons as Opal, she also agreed. So now it's 1990. Everton and Elaine, who already have 2 children of their own, are expecting to receive Melanie, Dwayne, and Cleon. Apartment 2203 was a modest 1-bedroom unit in the Parkdale area of Toronto, and now it's being asked to accommodate 8 people. Parkdale was a relatively shabby area in the 90s, but Melanie, Dwayne, and Cleon had dreams of a better life in Canada, so this was still a dream come true. Melanie just wanted to go to school after all, and eventually become a nurse. Life in Canada promised to be far more safer than in Jamaica, and when she arrived in Toronto, she thought she had that, but it was a lie. Immediately after arriving, Elaine and Everton put the 3 children to work. They allotted out different roles for each of them. Cleon was forced to work with his father in petty crime, and Elaine forced him to teach her younger children, as Everton refused to send any of the kids to school. Dwayne was forced into a paper route with his earnings going directly to Everton, and 13-year-old Melanie was forced to be the maid for the family, cooking and cleaning to Elaine's standards, tending to her children 24/7, and all while being starved and deprived of adequate sleep. Dwayne, Cleon, and Melanie, despite performing as slaves for Everton and Elaine, would still receive daily punishments. They were forbidden to sleep on beds, and instead forced to sleep on the floor beside the bed of Elaine's children, just a subliminal way of instilling her hierarchy. They'd receive regular and severe beatings. They were deprived of food. They were even forbidden to use the family bathroom. So how would they meet their hygienic needs? Well, Everton and Elaine had a solution for that. They forced the children to use a bucket on the balcony, which, to reiterate, sits on the 22nd floor of their building. No matter what the weather was, the season or the temperature in Toronto, Melanie, Cleon, and Dwayne would be forced to bathe and go to the bathroom using that bucket outside on their balcony. The only interaction Melanie ever had with the family bathroom was when she had to clean it, or when Elaine and Everton would shove her head down the toilet as punishment and for fun. In 1992, hopeless and with seemingly no other options, Dwayne jumped from that 22nd floor balcony, ending his own life. He was 13. But we'll get back to his suspicious case in a moment. After Dwayne passed, Elaine and Everton were down a child slave, so supposedly naturally, the remaining 2 had to make up for it, with the treacherous mistreatment towards Melanie intensifying. She was regularly chained to a wall unit. Her beatings now involved both parents at once. Everton would often stomp on her head. She was forbidden to eat. They stuffed her and locked her in a barrel. They locked her outside on that balcony, sometimes for days. She was locked in a broom closet with no light and no room to sit. She'd be forced to stand there for days. Investigators later found scratch marks on the inside of the walls. The days of sleeping on the floor was now gone. Shortly before her death in 1994, Melanie tried to escape from apartment 2203, an apartment she had only left probably 5 times since 1990. But at the age of 17, weighing only 50 pounds and with her body covered in welts, bruises, and cuts, she wasn't able to make it more than 20 feet towards the stairwell. Her legs, back, multiple ribs, and pelvic bone was broken after all, so she couldn't walk. Her breathing was labored and painful. When Elaine and Everton discovered that Melanie was missing, even they knew she couldn't have made it far in her condition, so they sent Cleon out to find her and bring her back. It's important to recognize the amount of psychological and physical abuse Cleon faced as well, which explains why he followed their orders and he brought her back. The next time Melanie Biddersingh would be seen again would be in that suitcase, burned beyond recognition, wedged between 2 burning tires. In November 2021, Elaine confessed to her pastor. And then in January of 2012, Elaine and Everton would finally be brought to justice. Everton was found guilty on the count of first-degree murder and sentenced to life with no chance of parole for 25 years. Though Elaine tried like hell to push all the blame onto Everton, thankfully, the jury saw through her lies. guilty on the count of second-degree murder, sentenced to life with no chance of parole for 16 years. Looking into the death of Dwayne, Melanie's 13-year-old brother, who the courts ruled back in 1990 had taken his own life, investigators still have a common and agreed-upon theory. Maybe he did not intentionally jump from that 22nd floor balcony after all. Given the details of this grisly case and the morbid secrets of the Biddersingh family, it's more probable that in an effort to escape a severe beating, 13-year-old Dwayne used that balcony as a way to access help from a neighbor and instead fell to his death. This theory seems more aligned now with what we know about Everton and Elaine Biddersingh. A court document reported that on June 15, 1992, Dwayne confided in a family friend saying, "He's going to kill me," referring to his father. June 15, 1992 was the day Dwayne died. Upon exhuming Dwayne's body in 2012, the lead investigator found that he had been given a pauper's burial, just another way to confirm how little he mattered to Everton and Elaine, even in the end. As of 2024, no charges have been laid in relation to the death of Dwayne Biddersingh, and his death is still considered a suicide. If you're wondering why Melanie's mother never came forward to report her daughter missing, and why Elaine's own children never noticed that their big sister was dead, well, that's because no one apparently knew. Everton and Elaine told the family that Melanie had run away to live with her friends in New York State. As ridiculous as this story may sound now, everyone believed them. Melanie, Cleon, and Dwayne left virtually no traces in Canada once they arrived back in 1990. They were forbidden to enter school. They were forbidden to make friends. They were rarely allowed to leave the apartment unsupervised by Everton. In the 4 short years that Melanie lived in Canada, she spent all of it confined to that 1-bedroom apartment, suspended by 22 stories between her and her freedom. There was nowhere to run. There was no one she knew. She had no way of knowing how to seek help. No one outside her family knew that she was here. September 1st of this year will mark the 30th anniversary of when Melanie's body was discovered. Had she been allowed a chance to live, she would have been 47. Rest in peace, sweet Melonie and Dwayne Biddersingh.